Oslo doesn't really feel like the rest of Norway. That's because the city doesn't really match the dramatic image that most people have of this country. It's more modern, flatter, and less colorful than places like Bergen and the famous fjords in western Norway. But at the same time, nature is everywhere here. There are fjords around the city and beautiful forests just 20 minutes away from the city center. So over the next couple of days, we're gonna spend some time exploring Oslo, from waterfront neighborhoods to modern architecture, to see what makes the city so special. This is one of the most iconic buildings in Oslo. It's the Opera House, and the cool thing about this place is that it was designed to look like it was just raising from the water, sort of like an iceberg. And people actually come here not just to watch operas, but to walk around and see the beautiful view. And the cool thing about this is that you can actually walk on the roof. So that part behind me is the roof and people are walking there. And here you can actually watch the sunset and you get a beautiful view of the sun setting over the fjords. Not today though, because it's very overcast, but on bright sunny days this is a perfect place to do that. You see right there, that's the Saunas. I was caught just watching people jump on the water, but there was something almost hypnotic about them moving between the warmth of the sauna and the freezing fjord right in front of us. It's so cool. I've never walked on an opera house roof before. Beautiful, but it's so cold and windy. I don't know how those people were swimming on that water behind me. It's freezing. Despite the gloomy weather, there was something really beautiful about this being our first glimpse of Oslo. It's actually so cool when you come down to the opera, like from the roof, and you go to the left. You can see all the costume department. They're here working, and you can see the costumes and wigs and stuff. That's really cool. I think that's what makes the Opera House so interesting. Even though it's one of the city's biggest attractions, it doesn't feel like it exists just for tourists. There are people working, creating things, and actually using this space. It just feels alive. And when you step outside of it, that same feeling carries into the neighborhood around it. It's polished and modern, but still very much lived in. One of the most recognizable buildings here in Oslo is this one behind me. It's the Munch Museum, and it's right across from the opera here in the waterfront. It's a beautiful view that you have from the water here. And this is the museum dedicated to Edvard Munch, which is actually one of Norway's most famous artists around the world. So he actually has a whole museum dedicated to him because his art is really iconic here. And if you want to go in, it costs around 22 euros, but if you just want to see the museum from the outside, it's also beautiful. Even without going into the exhibitions, it was interesting to see how the museum fits into this part of the city. Everything feels very contemporary here, but never too polished or distant. And after spending some time by the waterfront, we slowly made our way back towards the center. This is Karl Johans Gate. It's the main street here in the city center, and it connects the central station behind me to the palace right at the end of the street. And basically this is a pedestrian street full of different shops, restaurants, and it's actually quite chill for like a capital, an European capital, like the main street of an European capital. You would expect it to be more people here. I don't know if it's because of the weather, but it's chill and calm. The only thing you hear right now is the change of the guard that's happening right in front of us, and you can hear them playing some instruments and the horses going by. But yeah, it's not the best weather today for a nice stroll here, but still it's cool to see this main street. One thing I found interesting about Oslo was how quickly the city can shift between completely different worlds. You can spend the morning surrounded by contemporary art and modern architecture, and then suddenly find yourself surrounded by historic buildings that almost feel like they belong to a different city from the one you were just in. It makes you realize that this city has so many different sides that somehow all fit perfectly together. So earlier today we were on this main street coming to the palace, but it started actually raining a lot. So we changed our plans and decided to do something indoors instead. That's when we went to the market. And now we're back here because the weather changed completely again. And now it's kind of sunny. So this is the royal palace, which is the official residence of the royal family. Norway has a king, but the king is head of state, but most of the political power is actually in the hands of the parliament and the prime minister, so it's kind of like the UK in that regard. And actually comparing to the palace in London and the one in Madrid, this is actually very different because there are no gates, so it feels kind of weird to be here in front of the palace and you can just walk up to the door. Of course, you cannot go in, but it's kind of chill here. There's not that many people. And one cool thing about this place is that every day at 1:30, you can see the change of the guard. So we're going to actually try to see that tomorrow because you couldn't see it today. So we came back the next day to see the changing of the guard. It was a lot more understated than we expected. There was no sense of grandeur or spectacle, just a simple tradition quietly carrying on. And somehow, that felt very Oslo too. There's something about this city that feels remarkably relaxed and unpretentious, without being boring, of course. It feels almost effortlessly cool. I feel like there is something very Scandinavian about that. From the palace gardens, you can look back over the city and see the newer parts of Oslo mixed in with all these older buildings. And just a little further along the waterfront, the city gets even older. This fortress is actually one of the oldest places in Oslo. It was built in the 1200s and it sits in the waterfront. Right outside here you can see the Oslo fjord, and this is a very strategic point because it was built to defend the fjord from enemies attacking it during the Middle Ages. Nowadays it's still a military place, so they have some you can see behind me like a little castle, so to speak. That area still has some military rooms there, so you cannot access that. But you can walk around the grounds of the fortress. There's like a little park here, and that's free. They actually have some wild foxes living here. There's some signs that say like, hey, don't approach the animals because they're wild. I haven't seen them yet, but that's interesting. Actually, one of the coolest things about this place is that you have a beautiful viewpoint here, but it's raining a lot today. So we're just hiding here from the rain, so we cannot really see the viewpoint right now. But that's a good tip if you're coming here when the weather is good. Good place to see the sunset, just look out and see the fjord and the beautiful view. As the rain started to slow down, we just wandered around the fortress for a while. There was something really peaceful about being in the middle of all this history with the city still going on around us. You could take your time, taking in the views and the beautiful architecture, and for a while it felt so peaceful and quiet that it almost felt like we weren't in the middle of a huge city at all. When we got here, I was pretty confused because I couldn't find anywhere where you could buy the public transportation tickets, and we wanted to take the metro. And I actually saw that they have an app where you buy the tickets, and it's actually really easy. Just go on the app and you click buy ticket, and then you select if you want a single ticket or if you want a 24-hour, 7-day, or 30-day ticket. And we actually got the 24-hour ticket because it costs, let me see, for zone 1 is Oslo. So the whole city is zone 1. If you go to the airport, it's a different zone. But if you just want to see the city, it's just zone 1. And then it costs around 13 euros for 24 hours, which is the price of 3 rides. So if you go back and forth and then take an extra ride, 3 rides, it's 24 hours. So for us, it makes more sense to have this one, and then we can take as many rides as we want with all the public transportation or just the metro. So yeah, then you pay. And we got a couple times some inspectors on the train where they check the ticket. You just have to show them the QR code, and that's it. You don't have to validate or anything, so it's really easy. Once you figure out the system, getting around Oslo is actually pretty effortless. And I like that even the journey itself became part of exploring the city. You get a completely different view of Oslo when you're moving through it rather than just walking between the main sites.
Behind me is a food market. We found it on the Google Maps and it's really cool. So inside you can find a lot of different food stalls, some little stores which sells food from different countries, also some restaurants, and try like local food, Norwegian food. Also you can try a lot of like Italian pasta, Japanese sushi, and a lot of different things. So it's a cool place. If you don't know exactly what you want to eat, come here, look around, and definitely will find something for you. And also, if it's a group of people and they want different things to eat, that's also a good place to go. So I definitely recommend to go to the food market like this and choose something unique to eat.
Markets are a great way of seeing what people actually eat wherever it is that you're visiting. And one thing that definitely caught our eye in Norway is seeing that whale, reindeer, and moose meat are everywhere. You can find them in restaurants here, sold fresh at the market, and even in regular supermarkets in different cities we visited around the country.
So I got something unique to try. It's here in the food market. I got the moose burger with some lingon berries mayo, some onion jam, and arugula. Quick review, a little feedback about this burger. So the meat itself is more like chewy in comparison to beef. So it's a medium. By default, they serve it medium here, but it's more chewy and a bit weird texture. But the taste is good. And this lingonberries mayo actually make it really nice, like this berry aftertaste, the sweetness together with mushrooms and this jam from onions, really good. I definitely recommend to try because it's something unique, and here it's quite easy to find. But yeah, I would maybe improve it a bit, but adding something like more spicy. But yeah, the taste is good. Potatoes with aioli sauce is also good. Worth the try.
And food ended up being one of the best and tastiest ways of understanding Norway. Some things were familiar, some were completely new, and sometimes the combination was actually what made them memorable. So I just got this traditional waffle. They make a waffle with sour cream, jam, and this is actually cheese. It looks caramelized because it's a brown cheese that's typical from Norway, and apparently the way they make it is that they cook the milk until the sugars in the milk get caramelized, and then they make cheese, so it's a sweet cheese. Let's see. I don't know how people manage to get all the 3 in one bite. I saw some people folding it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that. Let's see. It's really good. It actually doesn't taste like cheese at all, because this cheese tastes kind of like caramel, but it has the texture of cheese, so it's very different from like anything I'm used to. And the sour cream gives it a sour taste. So the waffle is really sweet, like the batter itself and the jam and the cheese. So then the sour cream sort of like balances it out. It's a really good combination, actually. I like it. And I paid €7 for this. We are actually right outside of the market, like 5 minutes away from where we were before. And there is a place, I'm gonna put the name of the place here, that is specialized in waffles, and it's actually really popular. Actually, it was so crowded in there that that's why I came here to the park in front of it to eat. But yeah, really good. Can recommend trying it. After eating, we just kept walking around for a while, and in this area, the energy felt completely different from what we'd seen so far. There was less of a sense that we were moving between sites, and more of a feeling that we're just wandering through a neighborhood where people actually live. So we're currently walking around this neighborhood called Grünerløkka or something along those lines. And this is actually sort of like the cool artsy neighborhood of the city. And it's just like 10 minutes away from the city center, so it's still quite central, but it's not anything like the city center actually, because here, as you can see in the buildings behind me, the architecture is completely different. In the center, everything is huge and modern. And here, there's a lot of older buildings, a lot of street art. You also find a bunch of independent cafes, boutiques, vintage shops. It's a really cool, like, hipstery area of the city, and it feels much more local and less touristy here also. The more we explore Oslo, the more we notice how nature is present in their everyday life here. Even when you're surrounded by buildings and busy streets, the water and the green spaces never feel very far away. It almost feels like you don't have to choose between city life and nature here. So we saw earlier today when we visited the opera that there's some saunas across from it, and we're walking around here again, and it's kind of crazy to me that people jump on this freezing cold water and they seem to really enjoy it. But it says it's actually 10 degrees, the water temperature right now, and then after they jump, they go in the sauna. And actually, saunas are really popular not only in Oslo but in Norway as a whole. No matter what the temperature is outside, people go in the water, freezing water, and then they go back to the saunas. I think it's like a cool way to relax, but it's not for me, at least not right now in this temperature. But you can see actually how people here are very connected to the nature that surrounds the city, because they're swimming in the fjord, and like 20 minutes from here there is a forest. So even though we are in a huge capital, the nature here is very present and people really enjoy it. It's really cool. So actually, on the topic of how people here are connected to nature, there is a really cool thing that they do here. That here behind me, there's this Oslo fjord, and around the fjord there are several little islands, and people island hop here. They take these boats that they have here behind me, and they can go from island to island. Apparently, each island is a little bit different. Like, they have different vibes. They're unique. Unfortunately, we're not gonna have time to do that now. But that is a very cool thing that I didn't know people did in Oslo. I didn't know there were so many islands around the city. But I think it's especially cool to do that during the summer, because these islands can be kind of like a little beach, each one of them, very different from each other. By this point, we'd been in Norway for a while, and we were starting to realize that the places we were visiting weren't the only interesting things. Sometimes it was just the little things happening around us that caught our attention and got us intrigued. So we've been in Norway for around 10 days already, and we've been seeing teenagers wearing blue and red jumpsuits everywhere in the country. And I did a little research and I asked one of them, and apparently that's a very Norwegian celebration, that between April and May, the teenagers who are finishing high school, they wear that as a sort of uniform. And then kids come up to them, like kids around 8, 10, and they ask for a little card that these teenagers make with their names and some funny jokes. and kids collect their card as like a Pokemon card or something. So if you're in Norway around that time and you see these teenagers dressed like that handing out these cards to kids, that's what it is.
We wanted to experience a little more of what everyday life in Oslo felt like, beyond the usual sights. So we decided to do something a little bit different.
So another experience we decided to try in Oslo is to visit a football match. I'm a big fan of football, and I saw that today in Oslo the two teams are playing, and one of them is a team from Oslo, I think one of the main teams. And I don't know how to pronounce the name. I think it's Valerenga. Maybe not, sorry if I mispronounce it, it's really hard for me. But I would like to see how the atmosphere comparison to Germany and the other stadiums visited, and like what is special about it. So let's see how the game goes. So far it looks chill, especially here on the entrance. There is no line, not that many people, and we still have like 40 minutes to the game, I believe. So let's see how it's gonna go. 5 minutes ago the second half started, and the first half was really intense. The score is after the first half is 2-2. Both teams play openly, they create a lot of moments, and yeah, it's really interesting to watch. The atmosphere is also great if you can hear it now. Yeah, the fans are like singing all the time, dancing. They have some pyrotechnics, and yeah, it's really cool. One cool thing about the stadium, which I never experienced before, that you can get a coffee or a hot chocolate, and it's free refill, so you can refill as many times as you want, which makes sense for this cold weather here, because it's really cold and rainy all the time. So yeah, so far it was a great idea to come here and experience the Norwegian football.
It was really nice to experience a different side of everyday life in Oslo, beyond the places we saw as tourists. And then, on our last day in Norway, we happened to be in Oslo on one of the biggest days of the year in the country, and completely by accident.
Today is May 17th, which is Constitution Day here in Norway. It's actually the biggest celebration in the country, and you see a lot of people dressed in their traditional outfits, which are really beautiful, and apparently they're all embroidered with different themes that represent different regions of the country, and these outfits are passed down generations. And how they celebrate this Constitution Day is they have several parades in different cities, the biggest one being here in Oslo. And the focus of this parade here in Oslo, like the main event, is actually a children's parade. And the children walk with the Norwegian flag, and that's because it celebrates the future of Norway. The kids are the future of Norway, and that's the main event. You don't really see like military parades or anything like that. And it's so cool. It's a party. We were talking to the people in our hotel, and they're like, yeah, it's the biggest day here. People start drinking at 8 in the morning. They barbecue. It's really cool. The vibe of the city completely changes, and it's beautiful. I'm really excited to see it. I don't know if we're going to actually have time to see the children's parade because we have a plane to catch in a couple of hours. So we ran really quickly here to the city center to see what was going on. I hope we can see it, but let's see. So they celebrate the Constitution Day today because in the early 1800s, with the Napoleonic Wars, Denmark was forced to give Norway to Sweden. and Norway did not accept that. They wanted to be their independent country, so they made their own constitution establishing independence. However, they didn't manage to get independent at that point, but still they celebrate the Constitution Day instead of the Independence Day. I mean, the celebration of the Constitution Day is bigger than the celebration for the Independence Day, because at this point they established their independence. So it was a step towards independence. So it really celebrates their national pride and their identity. So that's why this is such a big deal today. So that was our time in Oslo. I really enjoyed the city. Oslo is a beautiful city, and one of the coolest things about Oslo is that it's one of the greenest capital cities in the world, which means there's a lot of outdoor stuff to do and see here. We didn't manage actually to do a lot of the outdoor stuff that we planned because the weather was not on our side, so we had a lot of rainy days, but maybe that just means that we have to come back sometime in the summer. And if you like this video and you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and check out our Norway series.